It's fun.
Hi. Hi. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. We've got a lot of good poems ahead of us. So, welcome to Helicon. My name is Millie Tullis, and I'll be your MC this evening. So a little bit about us, if this is your first time or your fifth time or your 100th time. Helicon West is a live reading series that brings published local writers to read alongside community members in an open, uncensored forum. In order to promote the voice of every community member and democratic ideals, we honor all levels of skill, ability, and craft. In addition to featuring published authors to give the literary arts more exposure in Cache Valley and its surrounding areas, we invite and celebrate aspiring writers from every walk of life to find and share their voices with us. We are committed to the causes of inclusion, accessibility, and representation in our writing community. Helicon West operates on the territory of the Northwest Band of the Shoshone Nation, whose people have been living, working, and residing on this land from time immemorial. We acknowledge that these lands carry the stories of these nations and their struggles for survival and identity. We recognize elders past and present as peoples who have cared for and continue to care for the land. In offering this land acknowledgement, we affirm Indigenous self-governance, history, experiences, and the resiliency of the Native people who are still here today. I would also like to thank our sponsors, the Logan Library, Sugar House Review, Utah Humanities, and our founder and matron our founder and matron Star Colebrook, who is here with us tonight, and the Cache Valley Center for the Arts for supporting us here. If you'd like to read during the open mic portion of the event, please find our sign-up sheet located by the coffee central location. You can sign up at any point that you are inspired or excited or moved. Go ahead and sign up. The open mic is also a really great and exciting part of having a featured reader here. Each reader will have about 7 minutes, and you'll be politely clapped off if you exceed 7 minutes. And all of our Helicon West events are recorded and then posted to YouTube. But if you don't want to be recorded, just let us know and we'll turn off the camera for you. Okay, so a couple announcements. Helicon West is made possible by our generous sponsors to help us stay in person until the new Logan Library is built, which should be soon. Just a few more months, I think. There are several ways to make a donation and help us stay afloat. There's a QR code. You can donate via PayPal. Sugar House Review's website has a donate button. You can leave your pocket change by the coffee. So help us continue to bring free literary events to our community. If something moves you, if the coffee revives you, or if you got a great date, consider leaving a tip to help keep a good thing going. You can also support our dear featured reader Dayna by buying a copy of her book. Dayna, do you have books with you? Yes, she does. She has books with her. So you can buy books after. I bet she'd sign them. I have a pen if you don't. And without further ado, let me read Dayna's biography here. Dayna Patterson is a photographer, textile artist, and irreverent bardophile. She's the author of Titania in Yellow, Pork Belly Press 2019, that's her chapbook, and If Mother Braids a Waterfall, Signature Books 2020, and her new book, Oh Lady Speak Again, also Signature Books 2023. Her honors include the Association for Mormon Letters Poetry Award and the 2019 Dignity Not Detention Poetry Prize, judged by Ilya Kaminsky. Her creative work has appeared in Eco Theo, Kenyan Review, and Poetry. She's the founding editor of Psaltery and Lyre and co-editor of Dove Song, Heavenly Mother in Mormon Poetry. She lives with her husband and 2 daughters in a little patch of enchanted forest in the Pacific Northwest. So we are very lucky to have her here tonight. So without further ado, give it up for Dayna.
Started gathering my things before anyway. Okay, thank you so much for that intro, Millie. And I'm gonna start my timer so I don't go like just bonkers over the generous amount of time I've been given to read. This is a dream for me. I'm from Logan, born and raised. I went to USU. Star Colebrook was my first poetry teacher. I was terrible, but Star encouraged me to keep writing. And I have, ever since I knew that Helicon West was a thing, I have wanted to come back to Logan and do this. I live in Washington now, and I have for 11 years, long time. But we come every year, and I'm like, Helicon West, please, please. So thank you, Sean, for making this dream come alive for me. I really
I'm so
appreciate
excited
it.
you're here. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Okay, I'm going to start with a piece from my first book, If Mother Braids, Waterfall. And this first poem is for Millie. This is Pioneer Day. We just had Pioneer Day, right? And this is a thing that people outside of Utah do not understand. So this was a classmate in Texas that is speaking at the beginning of this poem. Pioneer Day. Freak show, a classmate said. Watch them parade down Main on July 24th, singing, "Come, come ye saints." Horse and wagon, aproned women, babies in gingham. Toddlers in bonnets on their father's shoulders. Men with tin cups lashed to their belts. A freak show, she said, after a short Utah residence. I told her I'd marched in that parade, saying loud, "All is well, all is well," or sat curbside on Logan's, Center and Third, by the picturesque mansions a polygamist built, one for each of his 3 families. Ordinary backdrop of my life, familiar as summer sweat. I'd wave and clap as the bishop rode by with his pair of Clydesdales, hooves heavy clomping. He'd toss a fistful of saltwater taffy at my feet. I'd scramble to gather each piece, wrapped in a twist of wax paper, as if it were my right, my inheritance, to grab what I could from hot asphalt, a pinch of scorch. And this one I'm reading for my kiddo, Lily. And afterwards, if you want to see her drawing of it, you can go ask to see it. She's got it on her iPad there. This is our Lord Jesus in drag.
Yes.
She's like, "Mom, I didn't know you had a poem about Jesus in drag. I'm going to go draw that right now." And so she read it and then went and drew it, and I love it. Our Lord Jesus in drag. This guy can walk on anything, even 6-inch stilettos. His purse, a sequined fish. He unzips to finger a 2-drachma coin, flings it at the sour faces of the unbelieving bouncers. He doesn't need Spanx, perfect abs, perfect butt, perfect legs stretched from the glittering hem of his little black dress stitched with stars. He struts the floor to the back room where his 12 gussied up friends fondle him and welcome. They gab while they sample the grub, get a little drunk, tongues down throats that taste like red wine. Later, they'll hit the town, paint it rainbow, raise the dead, raise hell before Jesus goes home, strips, scrubs makeup from his perfect face. In the morning, it'll be a dove gray suit, cufflinks, a power tie. All business, he'll forgive 100 stinging slights, his daily sponge of vinegar. Yeah. So this is my new book, Oh Lady Speak Again, that just came out in February. It's a Valentine's book. It was rejected 55 times before the publisher picked it up. So, little tenacity, some grit. I'm so glad. I was very close to giving up on it before Signature Books picked it up, and I'm very happy that it is in book form. So happy I've got earrings.
Yes.
Anyway, this is so post-Mormon feminism mixed with Shakespeare. That's my nugget for describing this book: post-Mormon feminism and Shakespeare. This is "Oh is the Sound of Tragedy," which I think I read at Helicon West maybe 5 years ago. This book has been in progress for a while. Oh is the sound of tragedy. Oh, as in Romeo's doomed romance, as in Juliet's hopeless wound. Oh, for the little moan in Desdemona, alpha and omega of Othello, noose at the end of Iago. Oh, as the coward in Antony, whose autodestruct proved too slow. Oh, of Cleopatra's poison, the coiled asp of her final show, as in Lear's blow winds and crack your cheeks, rage, blow, his crawl toward old. Oh, as in woe, open mouth circle, hole in our faces, exit of groans, flow where flies or food may go. My mother's float, my father's snow, my faith in the whole, holy, holy broke. Oh, for the gone in Goneril, oh, as in go, run, revoke the order for Cordelia's, oh no. Oh, for the double O's of Gloucester's eyes, the twin O's in look which he can't because O is for out, vile jelly. Oh, as in mold, fold, follow, folly, fall into nothing, no thing to zero. Oh, as in globe, rotundity of the world, loaded with the O of sorrow. Oh, probes and prones, look, look. Look, look, to see so much and know, oh, says, no, no, no life, no breath, no more, ghost, poor fool, undo. Oh, for ambition's goad, for the smoke of Macbeth's unholy goal. Oh, for Ophelia drowned, for Hamlet's lost crown, his dying throes, his oh, I die, Horatio, his oh, 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 oh. That's lovely. That's good timing, clock. And it's in an O shape for the O poem. It was a lot of fun. Okay. Do you want to do it? They do. Yeah. Yeah, we'll share a book. You can grab. Yeah, we'll share a book. Come on. My mom and sister are gonna help me. They just found out. We can share a book. Yeah, we can share my book. So there's a there are several poems in this book that are multivocal, have lots of voices in them, and this one is easiest read with a few people. Surprise! I love you. And we've practiced this before, but it's been a minute.
Oh, also.
The circle ones are me.
Oh. Oh, as in. Oh.
So
Sorry.
So this is on page 61. It's Thunder and Lightning, Enter Three Witches. Anyway, Shakespeare very much wrote Macbeth to because of the king, James the Sixth of Scotland, first of England. He was obsessed with witches, and so people theorize that's probably when Macbeth was written, was to pander or to please the king. But it didn't do a lot for the women who were actually on trial. Not only women, mostly women who were on trial for witchcraft. It just kind of fueled the flames of all of that. So, are you ready? Which is Gillis? Gillis, okay. We good?
It's been more than a minute, obviously. Right.
Okay, so I'm gonna do a witch, and then mom, and I'm second witch. You're third witch. And then you're back to first witch, mom, and I'm second witch. And you read this one. Yes, I'm gonna read that one. Okay, we're ready. We practiced. Thunder and lightning, enter three witches. Three foul witches fond of rhyme, triple trouble, tripping time, chopped up beasties, black burnt pot, sideways speakers, crafty lot.
Gillis Duncan is my name.
Midnight healings earned me shame. Under torture, I confessed. Many more I named as cursed.
Dr. Fian, scholar, schooled, pillywinks and then the boot. Nails extracted, iron pins, learning, teaching were my sins.
Agnes Sampson, I am known, midwife, healer, honored crone. Witch's bridle pricked my tongue, shorn, thrown, garroted, burnt.
Scapegoats, creatures out of time.
Triple trouble, trapped with lime.
Chopped up bodies, blackened not.
Ghostly speakers, ghastly lot.
Shakespeare wrote Macbeth to please James's demonologies. King obsessed with witches' lore, pander playwright fed him more. Fair is foul and foul is fair, hover through the fog and filthy air. Yes, we haunt the Scottish play, shadows grinding axes stay. Not just 3, but thousands more, passing Hecate's open door, breaking bones, breathing plague, phantom vengeance center stage.
Thank you, Claire and Nancy. Thank you for, yes, jumping in. I probably should have warned them that was going to happen. So great. There's a character in The Tempest. Winter's Tale. Paulina, that I really love. She is a friend to the queen, and she is not afraid to stand up to this king, Leontes, who has an episode of jealousy, and he can't get over the idea that his wife has cheated on him. But Paulina stands up for him. She stands up for him to the point that Leontes threatens to burn her at the stake, and he says, "A gross hag, I'll have thee burnt." And her response is one of my favorite lines in Shakespeare that I probably need to tattoo on my arm. And Paulina says, "I care not. It is an heretic that makes the fire, not she which burns in it." It's a heretic that makes the fire, not she which burns in it. This is Ode to Paulina. Blessed battle axe, dragon, shrew. If you were underwater, you'd be anemone, harboring hunted fish in your stinging arms. If you were desert dweller, you'd be saguaro, a nest of owlets burrowed in your trunk's parliament. Nag, hag, holy ogress. Paulina, you're all spine and prick, skin of thorn shielding victim from tyrant's crack. Unshakable ally to jailed queen and nursling. You turn virago, fishwife, crone, scold. Your tongue a cat o' nine tails, each word a wound. She-devil, termagant, fire eater, harridan, under a bully's blaze, the cast iron nerve, you refuse to fear his torch. Hellcat, harpy, spitfire. If you were a creature of air, you'd clutch sun in your talons. You put wit in witch, bite in bitch. Teach us how to be women in a world that wants us dead. Lead us to the stake's phallus and back. Teach us to laugh at its scorch. I was delighted to have a piece in this beautiful anthology, Blossom as the Cliff Rose, that came out a couple of years ago. And my brother Danny went to Pioneer Day in Salt Lake and saw this amazing float with this giant grasshopper eating the corn. giant locust, excuse me. And there was a pilgrim or a pioneer about to huck a seagull at it, like it was a ninja, like a ninja star. What's the word? A ninja star? That's not the right word. A what?
Shuriken.
Okay, that. Yeah, it's about to huck it at the giant locust. And it reminded me of this poem. So this poem's for Danny. This is Our Lady of the Gulls. To write this poem, I read lots of accounts of when the Mormon crickets came and were eating all of the things. Our Lady of the Gulls. First, the killing frost. And when crickets boiled up from the ground like an Old Testament plague, merciful lady, we cried out to you. When they stormed our barns, houses, clothes, cupboards, we cried out to you. When their black bodies swarmed our springtime crops, devouring the corn and small grain, we attacked with sticks, clubs, brushes, brooms, and willows. We knocked them from the stalks. We crushed them under boot heels. We pounded them with mallets. Still they came by the thousands, millions, little cannibals, consuming their own dead with our food. We beat our pans and bells to scare them, and we cried out for you. We dug trenches of water for them to drown in, and we cried out for you. We set the sagebrush and forbs on fire, and we begged your intervention, lady. At last, you came in a cloud of wings. When it passed between us and the sun, a shadow covered the field. You heard our farmers' prayers and brought your mile of gulls, O Lady of Entomophagy. You commanded them to eat, and they did eat, and eat, and eat, disgorging along the water ditches lumps of crickets, pellets of parts. And then they flew to the fields for more. Some may call them scavengers, dirty birds, rats on wings, but we know better, Lady of the Laris Californicus. We hear in their screech the sound of salvation. Something I love to do in my post-Mormon existence is borrow the Catholic idea of Our Lady, and insert her into Mormon history. Imagining a feminine divine figure at key moments in Mormon history. So that is one of those insertions. I'm going to read this poem for my husband Charles. This is Noctiluca Scintillans. It's a villanelle, so you'll hear some lines repeated throughout. Noctiluca Scintillans, that's the scientific name for sea sparkle, which is the bioluminescence in the water. The night the sky fell, we paddled through. Its inky hush, 4 of us in the boat. Blue, black above us, and below us, black, blue. We strained our eyes beneath a new moon. Our oars stirred the stars and coaxed them to float. The night the sky fell, we paddled through, and boulders loomed at the edge of our view, so we kept to the night's star-strewn throat. Blue, black above us, and below us, black, blue. Trailing our fingers in a nebulous stew, we caught stars in our hands, ice blue and cold. The night the sky fell, we paddled through as if in a dream. Minutes lingered. Months flew. Matter dissolved. We wore dark like a coat. Blue, black above us, and below us, black, blue. Sunday school is what we named our canoe, yearning for sermons, unchurched and remote. For Sabbaths of skyfall, we'd paddle through, when below us, above us, a mute black blue. I heard a wonderful poet read, and he's like, don't clap in the middle. You'll make the other poems jealous. So you don't have to clap between poems if you don't want to. I've been working really hard. This is my newest poem. I'm about to share with you my newest poem. It about killed me. It's called Our Lady of Great Salt Lake. And actually, Torrey House Press is putting together a new anthology about work around Great Salt Lake. So this is my contribution. There's a beautiful article by Terry Tempest Williams in the New York Times that was very helpful for shaping this poem. It's another villanelle, so you'll hear repetitions again. And both of the epigraphs come from that article from the New York Times. So the first epigraph from Malcolm Lehigh, Great Salt Lake is a holy being. And from Terry Tempest Williams, it is the body of my mother lake who is hurting. This is Our Lady of Great Salt Lake. The lake is a mother who won't say no, a vessel veined, woven, webbed with blue thread. She unravels till she's a barren bowl. She knows the names of all the birds who home to her shores: cinnamon teal, avocet, phalarope, pelican. She won't say no, unspooling skein from sky, pooling creek flow into the refuge of her turquoise bed. We shallow her blue till barren, her bowl, saline shroud, dust nimbus, brine fly halo. See her ghosting islands, her spiral tread. The lake is a mother who won't say no, except in arsenic sky, in dwindling snow, in mercury lung, in silent spring. Dread is our garment, how to mend her parched bowl. For her, for the birds, we'll learn to say no, feed her streams, swell her seams, a watershed gathered to her mending. Our mother, we know she aches to brim, unbrine, to stitch herself whole. Her devotion, old pattern, a giving bowl. So instead of spaces, I have stitches for my em dashes that go throughout the poem. So that's, yeah, thank you. You're making other poems jealous. You're making other poems jealous. Oh, I realize I have another poem for Lily. Sorry, Lily. This is another poem for Lily. This is called Fluid. And I have permission to share it with y'all, so thank you, Lily. My 14-year-old asks me to stop introducing her as my daughter. Asks instead for kid, her short blue hair all hidden beneath the purple cap her grandma knitted. The cap she calls her soul. And if a soul can be a cap and a kid can be both daughter and son, fluidly moving hour to hour, day to day, from one to the other or in between, I wonder what else I've failed to imagine. And although I've been expecting this request for years, their ask stirs up all the swans that moments ago were quietly grazing in the field of my soul. And if my soul is a troubled flock of tundra swans gyring up into sky the color of my kids' fading hair, where will they land? I'm the second daughter of a second daughter, and he, she, they are my second, no longer daughter or sometimes daughter, and sometimes a blue sky filled with sun, and sometimes weather I know better. Gray rain, a satin percussion, and stratus clouds, and fog curling up from the lake surface. Don't I know how words matter? How one word can shape a world, shake a womb. So I'll call her my cumulus, Him, my shifting river, them, my curlicue of mist, my Capricorn, my sea goat, my fogbow, my snowball, my drizzly afternoon, my Virga, my bright iridescence. Land here. Love them in every form. Okay, I realize I haven't actually read that with you in the audience before, and that was harder than I thought it was going to be. You can clap for that poem. That's okay. Okay. Let me check how we're doing here. Whew. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to share 2 more poems. Which one do I want to share? No, I'm just going to go to the last poem. Yeah.
Yeah, you got 2.
We'll go to the last poem. And this one is for Maddie. My other kiddo. Okay. So I tried to write about lots of the different female characters in Shakespeare in my book, and I failed at a lot of them. A lot of them did not make the cut. Cleopatra, cut. Who else? Beatrice got cut. Oh, some of them were just harder to write about than others, and some I connected to. Lady Macbeth was really hard to write about. But there's a beautiful 2015, I believe, version of Macbeth where it begins with a child's funeral. It begins with like the child on the pyre. They've just lost their first child, and that changes the whole scope of the play, doesn't it? And your understanding of Lady Macbeth and maybe what she's going through. Anyway, so Lady Macbeth comes into this poem obliquely. It took me 14 years to write a poem about having my first child, and this is it. This is called Red-Handed. Chopping beets for borscht. My daughter, do I look like a murderer? Shoves her readied hands in my face. I pull one of her hairs from my mouth, dyed red from beet juice swirling in my bowl, gold beads of chicken fat in the broth, her hair in my mouth with cabbages and carrots reminding me who made this meal, this sustenance, this girl I grew from my beet red womb after pills, procedures, vials of blood, the hysterosalpingogram when dye bloomed from each fallopian tube, a poisonous flower spelling dead end. Each month, its petals shed bright drops in the shower, scrawling failure. How she sustains me hour to hour. A beet is not a tuber, but a taproot that grows heart-shaped. She, at 7 weeks, 7 millimeters, no bigger than a bean, her pinhead heart flaring on screen, a bright jolt. And I, a bright jolt, a beet's rich scarlet derives from pigments called betalames, and I, a kind of accomplice to this crime called mother, as in my body gutted, and the I was became carcass. Who else can I call murderer, but she made me host and hostage. A beet seed is tiny as a grain of sand. It grows round and bulbous in the dark. I went willingly, but witness, she was red-handed from the start. Guilty when I ousted her, the evidence plain to see, her flailing on my chest, her hands, small blades, cut open the blue veins of sky, the sun, bled and bled, crimson streaked, her hands. Vernix creased, her hands chopped the air as if to say, all of this, all of it.
Thank you so much. Let's give it up one more time for Dayna. That was even more amazing than we knew it would be. We have some open mic readers. There's room for more, so I'll leave this up here if anyone wants to sneak up. There's plenty of room, but our first three, we've got Star, Denise, and Ron.
Whenever I hear Dayna read, I feel like I'm going to start crying, and then I get all joyous. So, thank you, Dayna. That was really wonderful. Really wonderful.
Thanks for getting me started, Star.
Oh, you're most welcome. See, you should always pay attention to people who say, no, that was good. Pay attention. I don't have any poems for you. For Dayna's family and a couple of others who might not know, my sweetheart of 31 years, Mitch, my sweet Mitch, died on June 20th, and I haven't been writing any poems, and I've just written a couple of little journal things that I wanted to share with you because we had this most amazing life celebration for him on Friday last week, and lots of help and beautiful people who came, so many of them, and it just made me feel really grateful. I already was, because Mitch was diagnosed with cancer in 2004, and then it metastasized in 2013, and they said, well, you have 3 to 5 years if you're lucky, and no, he had a lot of years, and we enjoyed every single minute of it. So these are just some short journal entries, and I'll just read 5. Thursday, July 20th. He died 1 month ago today. No wonder I woke crying yesterday. It was the 1 month anniversary of the last party we had for him on Monday, Juneteenth, with him in attendance, though he was dying actively, as that adjective is applied. I guess it's an adverb. When there may be consciousness deep inside, but the body is unable to express it, the organs shutting down, the oxygen to his heart and brain not enough to sustain him for one more day. 1 month ago today, at 1:41 a.m., he died, and belief lags behind the reality. Second, Friday, July 21st, 6:05 a.m. A beautiful summer day, just right for a big raucous party. We will take his ashes to the cemetery, his urn snug in the urn vault, in their fractured wood urn between the boxes of Chesley and Garuda's ashes. Off to the next galaxy together, he and his dogs. They just fit perfectly, the three of them. It was beautiful. I think I'm missing one. 4. The driftwood horse. Oh gosh, some of you don't know about the driftwood horse. So picture 2 big slabs of wood, 6 feet tall by 8 feet wide. It's on wheels, and then it's a farm scene. It goes way back, way back, way back, like the wide sunbeams that you see coming out. And it's all painted with flowers and different kinds of things, and this ornate stuff on the top. And then superimposed on this big farm horse sketch is driftwood and hubcaps and all manner of things shaped into this magnificent horse. It looks like it's all muscle and bone and blood, and it's gorgeous. And he built that over many months of gathering driftwood on Summit Creek in Smithfield. The driftwood horse is home in the Harley shed. Oh, by the way, the Harley shed is where he used to keep his Harley motorcycle. It was sand and turquoise. Where it will reside in its final state of being until I can no longer live here. When we left the ashes from the creator of the driftwood horse at the Smithfield Cemetery for their final repose, oh my sweet Mitch, I got the keys for his truck to Sam. our wonderful Sam, who drove it to Richmond to the temporary stall where the horse had been waiting for us to find it a place. And we gave it a final public showing at the Life Celebration, where it stood in a canopy of trees to greet hundreds of people who came to celebrate its artist, my Mitch. Anita, the event center host, and I saw that it had lost a piece out of its back hip area, and as we talked about how we might help it look better, she realized that she had a wood burl. She'd saved it for years. She didn't know why. She walked over, picked up the burl, we stuck it in. It was perfect. 5. The hardwood tattoos. The hardwood tattoos. So hardwood flooring, you take some of it and you cut pieces of it and you put a frame around it, a wood frame. Oh yeah, show them the hardwood tattoos for people who want to see them, who didn't get to see them at the Life Celebration. Thank you, Josh. And so he would burn these old-fashioned tattoos on there. And I don't know, he did 200 and something of them. 5 boxes of hardwood tattoos, a tub full of Parcheesi boards, a box of fishing lures and ball creatures, and various other pieces of eclectic art and oddments, along with a 3x4 Outer Limits rendition in the ornate wood frame, all went along to the celebration with the driftwood horse. The Parcheesi boards went into the garden of their own, looking out from plantings with all their colorful geometric faces placed by my son Darren. Granddaughter Carissa lifted 2 of them into her car for transporting home to Washington, and others were carted off by happy souls who will display them with love. Same with the hardwood tattoos, which filled a 12-foot-long table, and the other various art pieces that graced the round tables where people were sitting. Happiness and gratitude abounded. And the hardwood tattoos were reduced to 2 boxes, the Outer Limits gone to live with Sean, and only 1 box of the other various art pieces is left to give to friends and family, or to keep as mine for the rest of my life.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, get right up to it.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
The thing about reading glasses is you need them to be able to read, but then when you look up, everybody's blurry and it's so disconcerting. This poem is called A Summer Evening, and it was sort of inspired by Mary Oliver's A Summer's Day. So it's, anyway, okay. Yesterday evening, after a productive day of tending to the needs of the garden, the tasks of the house, the continually growing to-do list, and the never-ending emails, we fled the structured world. We took to the wilds. All around us, the trees stood in an unruly assemblage, holding aloft the tangled tapestry of green. The creek rushed and then rested, rowdy as it tumbled headlong down the slope to regather itself in deep pools. Amidst between the thick of it all, sunlight poured in. Beyond the boundaries of my knowing, the beings of this place live their lives without lifts, without efficiency, without the expectations to do more than what they can do. And still this place is full. And still this place continues to create and recreate itself daily. Tell me, my friend, is it about making a living, or is it, my dear, about living a life? So a couple of weeks ago, I had the great pleasure of spending a week rowing a raft down the Yampa River, which, if you're not familiar with it, it starts in Colorado and comes into Utah through the Dinosaur National Monument. And it's kind of like a little miniature Grand Canyon. It's beautiful. So this is called A Week on the River, and it's for the Yampa. There's something about it, one's willingness to surrender, to give up control, to concede to the call of the river, to follow its only option and head downstream. It is an act of faith to push off the shore, to swirl and glide and flow with the current, to observe without dread as the walls rise around you, how all possibilities of escape recede as you enter into a larger unknown. Trust is the vessel that carries you through riffle and rapid, where the sunlight dances with great joy across the surface of roiling water. Tossed and tumbled, scrubbed and scoured, you are washed and rinsed and released. Trust ferries you along into the dense darkness when the river turns away from the light. Silence surrounds you in that shroud of shadow, and fear may place its hands on the gunwales of your heart. It is trust that ferries you back out again into the bright world on that shimmering river that reappears, reborn. Over and over, day after day, you yield more and more, until there is nothing left that separates you. Then and only then do you know who you are. Then and only then are you certain of your place in the world. Right, one more. It's called reflection. Some days you can wake into a beautiful morning, all soft and glowing and pink around the edges, a morning that invites you to remember your own beauty. But you cannot recognize it anywhere. All you can feel is the raggedness of your heart, where some old scar was torn open the day before by sharp words and old memories. How the tender raw edges ache of that new old wound you thought was fully healed. No one else sees it or feels it, and you have gotten good at keeping it hidden, keeping your eyes lowered or looking off in the distance so no one can find it. You can make it through a whole day that way, staying hidden while living in plain sight, until some unsuspecting person catches you off guard as you look up to open the door. With a simple nod of acknowledgement, they greet you. Their gentle gaze takes in the whole of you. They smile the smallest of smiles. You cannot help but smile back, and in that moment become a mutual mirror. Though cracked and shattered, you reflect each other, bespangling the lobby with fluttering fragments of light.
We were kind of, when he went on the outing at Pine State Park, he didn't know it was down so dark. He hoped the day he'd find you alive. After he went to find, your sister was fine. Now you're gone, up in heaven above. So we want you to know, you alone. We got mud. The sun was dry. We got in the mud. And his car got stuck. You might say, car. The mud is the only thing that keeps. The car was dry. I'm falling down deep. You might think of mud in a better way. So what's better, son? To make another day. Thank you.
Our next three readers are John, Jay, and me, and then anyone else who makes eye contact with me.
Alright, tonight I will be reading an excerpt from my long gestating fantasy novel called Moitra.
Yes.
Its context is it's about a young orc journeying east centuries after the war with mankind. Things have not gotten better. And he crosses paths with two brother-sister humans who are trying to tear it down. And this scene is when he psychically bonds with one of them. Chapter 5, Lords of the Plain. From the air, the eastern highway out of Trona looked like a stripe of dirt splitting two large fields of bloodwheat. At first, Moitra admired the wind-rolled crimson on both sides. Tiny brown islands turned out to be wide sun hats on the field hands. Then he thought of Gromma, jailed for scavenging this stuff that grew in plenty just beyond the city. Biting his lip and staring at the road ahead, he quickened his step. Within half an hour of walking, the red flowers ceased at a wooden fence dividing them from the gray earth that so dominated the rest of the Orklands. Drawing closer, he saw something that made him pause, stare, and then shake his head. A waist-tall wooden sign reading Krakow. Here was the border, that impenetrable black line, in reality a fence no more imposing than one guarding cattle. Moitra kicked the base of the signpost. There was no gate. There wasn't even a sentry, unless you counted the crow perched on the fence. As he walked through, he held up his travel pass to the bird. If I get arrested, I'm blaming you. That evening he camped under a small bridge, spanned a narrow but deep crevasse. He climbed to the bottom, finding himself well trained for it by navigating the scaffolds in the refinery. Once at the soft dirt floor of the crack, he saw no harm in scratching his own initials into the rock. Weary from walking, he didn't bother unpacking. The air was warm, so no need for a blanket. His bedroll would do for a pillow. Away from civilization, he'd never seen so many stars. He stared through them at the moon until he fell asleep. He knew he was dreaming. The stars filled the sky all the way down into the crevice. He waved his arm through them, swirled them around his hand. He felt he could swim all the way up into the night and whatever lay beyond. The moon had doubled in size. The black bridge parted it about a third of the way up from its bottom pole, as if the wide orb was peering over the edge to study the orc in the ravine. In waking life, he didn't like to be stared at. Those harsh looks that thumped him into the ground like a nail. This time, he didn't feel afraid or ashamed. Absurd as it sounded, the moon seemed like it genuinely wanted to know more about him. Something delicate floated onto the tip of his nose. He puffed out his bottom lip and blew the thing over his eye. A red flower petal skirted to his forehead. Another touched down on his cheek, followed by one more on his chin. He squinted through the cascade to find its source standing in the middle of the bridge. A human girl. All of her mass rested on one foot, the other crossed behind her at the ankle. Her folded arms supported her frame above the rail. A precarious stance above a height so great, but she didn't mind. She had spent her whole life staring into the abyss and would neither care nor notice the actual moment she fell in. She spoke without moving her lips. "Why are you following me?" Moitra propped himself up on his elbows. "I'm not. At least don't think I am." A thin blue line of light dropped from the girl's chest and stopped on Moitra's. It looked like a string ready to pull him up or drag her down. Maybe you're not following me," she said, weaving her hand through the blue thread. "Perhaps you and I are simply going to the same place."
All right, I figure since it's summer and it's hot out, I would have us cool off with 2 poems about snow. This first one is titled Snowfall, and it's also a huzzle. Snowfall. If the leaves turn early, will the first snowfall come sooner? I long for the hard freeze and snowfall. Perhaps I'm nostalgic. Out for I trusted the powder deep. I felt safe with all up to my knees, cradled in snowfall. But storms are fleeting and impermanent like my body. They always pass, these brief moments of snowfall. And even during the harshest blizzards, I am amazed by how difficult it is to seize a single flake of snowfall. Now I fear I will die abruptly, plummeting into earth like a meteor, but I want to descend with ease like snowfall. Winter is an end in itself. There are also ends in winter. Jay, please don't forget that it melts, your beloved snowfall. All right, and this next one is inspired by that really crazy snowstorm we had in October a couple of years ago. I think we all remember. So this one is titled Weird Winter Weather. Some of the leaves hadn't even lost their green when that wintry storm engulfed our valley. Before we climbed into bed, it was only muted drizzle, but then the branches froze stiff as corpses, while fat flakes coated sidewalks, grass, aspens, and oaks like a sickly sweet icing. When we awoke, we saw that the heavier branches had popped clean off, like that kid who dismembers Barbie dolls had taken his talents to a new level, and that the lighter ones bent so low their twigs scraped foreign messages into snow. We all gave our best guesses as to what it could mean. Dan said the storm was human-caused, that we had bought ourselves the Climate Cafe's early bird special for the cheap price of 30-something gigatons of carbon emissions. But Carter countered, stating that this was all natural. Weather just gets a little weird sometimes. Then Jamie, being Jamie, insisted that the storm was just Demeter throwing a tantrum after Persephone snuck off to her boyfriend's house 2 months earlier than permitted. But whatever it was, the storm's aftermath was so violent that the university canceled classes. Some students went anyway, seizing the quad and erecting Titan-esque snowmen, their smiles dripping with service berries, their hemlock hair sprouting out like a mad scientist's do. Others stayed home, baffled, because gosh, we hadn't even made it to Halloween. Mark wanted to go as the Incredible Hulk, but how would he walk to the party? Not even a buff green giant could clear the sidewalks of the miles and miles of debris. But by the end of the week, the city had mulched most of the fallen branches. Still, there was no forgetting the storm, not with the dismembered trees, not with the floral snowmen staring us down as we walked to our classes, our jobs, our Halloween parties. But we soon stopped caring that we were once again saving up for another early bird special.
Okay, a little bit of context for this poem is that I was in my MFA and I was starting to write some sort of weird poems about stories my mom told me about my pioneer ancestors when I was a kid and doing research into that. And then one day Alyssa Quinn texted me and said, "You have to read my friend's book," and posted a screenshot. I think it was the first poem in If Mother Braids a Waterfall, and I said, "Oh, I need to read that book. Somebody's doing something like this." And it was so exciting to read Dayna's first book for me. And then I saw that she was running Sultry and Lyre and had created that. So I sent this weird poem her way, thinking that she might be the one to appreciate it, and she did. So kind of forever derailing my life. So this is Ode to My Great-Great-Grandfather's 5 Wives. Marie, 1. Marie was perhaps your name. This is all I know. You were French, and after 2 weeks, the marriage was annulled. Because you wanted to dance, he said, you would not stay home. Christina. There was almost another between 1 and 2, a 15-year-old girl who wouldn't quit crying at the ceremony. Brigham Young asked, "Do you want to marry this man?" "No. Take this child home to her parents." Anna Katharina, 2. You were Swiss like him, already shared a surname. Your new husband even gave the money that helped you, a widow with an 8-year-old daughter, cross the Atlantic, the plains, unto Zion, so there was debt and gratitude and duty before ceremony. Katharina Magdalena, 3. They have written almost nothing about you. You were 8 when he married your mother. You were 15 when he married you. You lived all together after your marriage in the way you had before it. How did he ask? Did you know what was coming was the body of your stepfather news? You died 2 years later over the birth of your only child. Your mother weaned her baby, gave her breast to yours. Paulina, 4. 10 days after your first baby was born, you had a hankering for the garden's green grapes, ate them and died. The baby starved, my sister says. I've read enough fairy tales to know the grapes, eating the grapes is what killed her. 5. Agnes Florence, 5. Only you are my great-great-grandmother. You who lived longest, who had 7 children, survived to write about you. On the boat from England you slept in steerage for 3 weeks. You threw everything up except, a daughter writes, the grapes, a missionary placed behind your lips. And when the boat almost sank, you told your daughter there were too many missionaries on board for God to let it sink. You were working in the temple the morning he brought in wood. You were married by afternoon. You made English puddings when things were good. When he left on a mission, you ate only potatoes and salt for 3 weeks. When one baby fell in the fire, you rubbed her hands with potatoes, bandaged each finger separately so they would not graft together. You were a nurse, your mother a midwife. I don't know who took the knife 3 months later, who cut the right pointer off, because someone said it was corrupting the other fingers in. Thank you. And we are not done yet. Alyssa volunteered to read, and then anybody else want to jump on the mic other than Rooster? He'll be our finale. Okay, we'll have Alyssa read, and then I'll make our closing announcements.
That was good, Millie.
Oh, thank you.
Hello, my name is Alyssa. This was just recently published in Fiction Attic Press, but it is not fiction. It is an essay. This is a flash essay. It is called Making Espresso. The Christmas after Kate and I married, we gifted each other coffee-scented candles. We still practiced Mormonism then. I thought it was a relevant day to write Mormon things, so here we are. But Mormons don't drink coffee. To do so breaks sacred covenants to follow God. We ripped through the wrapping paper and laughed at the unintended duplicate gift, us both already finding loopholes in our previously fervent faith. Cade raised his candle like a toast. We lit our candles and the scent spread throughout the living room. For months, our house smelled like a waxy Dunkin' Donuts. We tried actual coffee on my birthday in March, a rebellious treat. It didn't matter that I mispronounced macchiato or that Kate asked the barista if they had a cappuccino machine. What mattered was, though we couldn't name it then, something broke before we sipped. We held hands in the car, our shared drink in the cup holder between us. One day, after Kate and I had tried coffee a couple more times, we stood in the tiny coffee aisle of a Utah Walmart. We stared at a $20 Mr. Coffee drip coffee machine. We both jumped and looked away whenever another person walked by. The pans must be farther down the aisle, Kate shouted if he suspected someone lingered near us. My heart thumped and we ducked around the corner until the aisle emptied again. After a few minutes, we looped back to the Mr. Coffee machine. $20? I hesitated. Doesn't that seem a little excessive for coffee? That's like 10 coffees worth. Do you think we'll ever drink 10 coffees? Buying a coffee maker meant we planned to make sin a routine, an intention to make coffee a part of our life, a part of our home. I held the box for a while, but eventually I placed it in the cart. We then snagged our first bag of ground coffee beans, Seattle's Best, which, based on the name, we deduced to be the best. After a few laps around the store to make sure no Mormons we knew would ambush us at the checkout lane, we headed home. On Sundays, Kate and I held hands in the pews. Mormon church services left us feeling more spiritually hungry than fed, and rather than staying for the full 3 hours of meetings, Kate and I snuck out after the first and drove to a coffee shop. Kate and I straddled two communities. We guzzled coffee while we questioned our faith. I dedicated hours to podcasts, books, and scripture, begging myself to believe, but the more I studied, the more I questioned. Our coffee maker gurgled during church time. From the kitchen window, I watched our suit-wearing neighbors walk to Sunday school while I incorrectly folded one of the 100 paper filters we'd purchased for $1. When my faith faltered, I talked. I paced our apartment spewing facts about Joseph Smith, priesthood bans, and inconsistency in the scriptures while hot coffee sloshed out of my mug and onto the linoleum. Cade busied his hands making more coffee. Brown stains dotted our scriptures, the pages always open. After we learned horrific details of Mormon temple ceremonies and fallen prophets, Cade watched hours of YouTube videos on steaming milk. We installed an espresso machine in our kitchen, and he practiced latte art, flowers and swans, and we tracked his progress. We experimented with affogatos and purchased cortado glasses online. We added spices and syrups, extracts, and chocolate chunks. He left cappuccinos on my nightstand like a love letter. For a while, we lived in the interim, consuming both coffee and the gospel. Around Mormons, we hid our steaming cups in backs of closets. When we hosted company, Cade unplugged the espresso machine and covered it beneath a blanket in the bedroom. But we couldn't hide forever. I resigned from the Mormon church while Cade and I sat in a coffee shop. We considered stepping away from the church without the formal resignation process, a quiet fade out. But we cared about Mormonism too much for that. It was no longer nourishing, it was harmful, and we had to leave. Cade and I settled onto a bench in a room in the back, and I flipped the switch on a heater by our side. Artwork hung on the walls. New images every month featured various local artists. A small group of university professors lounged a few tables over, each of them occasionally standing for refills. The world outside of Mormonism no longer scared me. We were part of something else now. I logged onto my account on quitmormon.com and reached for my warm lavender latte. When Kate and I had first tried coffee, I'd hated the taste, but I loved it now. The foam popped, a barely audible crackle in my ear when I sipped. A couple tiny lavender flowers caught in my throat, and I washed them down with another frothy swallow of espresso and milk. I drank slowly to extend the experience, both out of nerves, but also to add weight to the moment of finality, even if contrived. Coffee rings clung to the top of the mug, rubbed off where my mouth returned to again and again. With half of my drink remaining, I clicked submit. Kate kissed me, foam pressed against his lips.
Thank you. All of these pieces were so great. Thank you all for being here. And I also realized listening to you that we need to have an anthology of things written about or at IBIS. That I feel like it'd be thick. I think that would be a very good book. Anyway, we can table that. But all right, so one last announcement before we all buy books and get them signed. Our next event, Britt Allen will lead a workshop on poetic healing on August 10th at Swenson Park, just down the road. Be sure to come and enjoy that as well. Thank you all so much for being here. And yeah, have a great night. Read some more poems.
Thanks, Millie.